All right, my beautiful followers, good afternoon and welcome to today's class. In today's class, I want us to go through this multimeter and see what we're going to learn from it. And then we're going to take it one at a time. Down here, we have the sockets. These sockets are where we plug in our probes. This one is where you plug in the red probe when you want to measure things like the temperature, voltages, both AC and DC, resistance, and then when you want to test your diode. And of course, the common probe, which is the black one, will always go here. So our black probe, we're going to plug it into the socket, and then while the red one goes here. Of course, these are the probes for this multimeter. All right, so when we want to measure current between microamps and milliamps, we're going to take the red probe and then we're going to plug it here. And then when we want to measure current that is up to 1 amp, we are going to plug the red probe into this one. All right. Now, this is the selector switch. So whatever you want to measure or test, this is what you use to select the particular function. For example, we want to measure voltage. This one is AC voltage. All right. So once you select this V with the sinusoidal waveform on top of it, you are going to measure AC voltage by using these probes to touch the source or the contact where you want to measure the voltage. And then if you look at this side, you are going to see another symbol of low pass filter. This low pass filter is a special function when you want to take measurement from some special devices where you have high frequencies. So what happens here is that when you select this function, this system automatically blocks the effect of high frequencies and allows you to measure more accurately. This can be used mainly on your variable frequency drives. And to select this function, you need to press this yellow button. When you press this yellow button, you are going to see you have the low pass filter symbol showing on top of this place. All right. So the next step is we'll go here. This place is also voltage reading. You measure voltage with this one, but this is DC. All right. That is where you measure your direct current. Now, when you select here, you can measure millivolts, but DC millivolts only. It's not AC. If you look at the sign on top of the millivolt, when you select here, you're going to measure DC voltage, but in millivolts. And then there is another symbol here, which is the temperature symbol. When you want to measure temperature, you are going to press the yellow button, and then it changes to degrees Celsius. It says open here because the temperature sensor is not connected across these two terminals. That is why it says open. And then also, you can also select the unit you want to measure. If it is in degrees Celsius, you leave it here. If you want to measure in degrees Fahrenheit, you press this range button, and then it changes to degrees Fahrenheit. So when we come to this side, it will allow us to measure resistance and continuity and then capacitance. So for us to measure continuity, we just need to press this buzzer symbol like this, so that when we shut this, we are going to hear that beep, meaning that this wire is continuous. And then when we want to measure resistance, we just press this again, it goes back to resistance. So we can actually measure the resistance of this wire, which is about 0.1, 0.2 ohms. All right. So when we want to measure capacitance, we are going to press this yellow button, and then this is going to change to nanofarad. So it measures up to nanofarad capacitance. Now, when we turn it to this one, it shows us the diode symbol. It means that we can test our diode making use of this particular side. And then when we turn it to this side, we are going to measure milliamps, but in AC. We can also measure amps also here. So when we want to measure milliamps AC, we set it to this place and leave it that way. When we want to measure amps also, we set it and leave it here. But of course, remember, you're going to move this red probe to here or here, depending on the level of current you want to measure. This can also measure current in DC. But for you to switch to DC, you press this yellow button and it's going to change to DC. Then you measure your current in DC. Now, you can also set it to this place so you can measure your current in microamperes, but AC. If you want to measure microamperes for DC, you have to come back here and press this yellow button, and you can measure microamps DC. All right, so let us come up to this side. We'll move this one back to AC. If you select this button, you are going to measure the frequency of that AC. We have also a percentage sign here. What does this one stand and what do we do with it? If you press this again, it will change to percentage and it measures the duty cycle. And of course, you know, in a standard AC sine wave, you have a duty cycle of 50%. What that means is that it is on half of the time and off half of the time. So this percentage is used to check your duty cycle. So this one is the rel button or the relative button. What this one does is that when you are taking measurement, for example, so when you press this button, what it does is that it records the existing reading but zeroes out this screen. Everything will be zero. So any other value you are going to measure is going to be the difference between the current reading and the stored reading. Right. And then this button, remember, when you press it, it switches this multimeter into continuity mode. So you can actually use this to measure or to test for continuity. And then this button has two functions. Number one is it is the backlight for the screen. And then number two, when you press and hold, it will change to high resolution. You can see the high res written under here. High resolution in the sense that what value you are measuring is going to increase the number of digits to give you a higher resolution in the reading you are going to take. And then this auto hold, for example, when you have fluctuating values, you can press this and then it records the value, that the last value, and then it keeps it there until you press it again before it will start to change again. This particular one is the range button. This one is just to measure the maximum and minimum values of a specific setting. All right, so mainly you can use this to select the range of voltage you want to measure. When you press this, it can change to manual, which is 6 volts. You can measure up to 6 volts. Press it again, it can give you 60 volts. Press it again, 600 volts, and then press it again, it gives you a maximum of 1000 volts. When you press again, of course, it's going to come back to where it was. But for you to go out of this, you can press and hold. It goes back to auto range. And then this minimum and maximum button here actually records the highest and lowest values of this multimeter, especially when you are taking reading of a fluctuating voltage or current. So what this does is that it measures the minimum value and the maximum value and records it. So you can actually take an average. You can actually pull it up and take an average. And then of course this yellow button, if you remember, is a function button as well. For example, the low pass filter, when you want to use it, you press this and it will switch from voltage to low pass filter. And then temperature, you press it, it will switch to temperature. And for you to change from degrees Fahrenheit to degrees Celsius, you press this one and it will change that way. All right. So if you like this video, please let me know in the comment section. If you have any question, drop it in the comment section or send me a private message. And of course, continue to follow me for more tips on power. Thank you very much.